District presents Championship Wrestling Sunday, September 18th with matches such as Carly Bravo versus Anthony Agogo. Top Team takes on Exotic Youth. The Business with Jersey Mike versus the Nasty Team with Nasty Leroy. Shoot Taylor takes on Dylan Lesson. Hyena Hurrah versus Kaya Dream. Bari Morales and Hayden Backlund take on Dave Stage and Trip Jordy. Dudes in Kimonos versus Fodder and August Artois. Angelica Risk versus Kayla Rossi with Diamond Sheik. Parker Lee takes on Khan. Ernest the Cat Miller versus the bartender Victor Raw. Diamond Sheik and Jameson Ryan versus Luther and Hunter Knott. Championship Wrestling in Atlanta, Georgia, Sunday, September 18th. Get your tickets now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Mighty Myron.
Yes, we are back in the studios. God forbid these day jobs that keep changing all the time, but we're going to make it to it, and we're going to record, and we're going to keep doing great shows.
Yeah, man. Like I said,
we're going to blow it up.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. We talked about it over the weekend. Some new cool stuff coming to the channel. Over on YouTube at youtube.com, of course. Just search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Is probably the easiest way than trying to remember that old URL, but not that it's difficult. youtube.com/C/Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Should be pretty easy for you to find, but cool stuff. We were discussing a lot of it. We're going to start doing a little sports, a little comic books, fantasy football, blah, blah, blah. Just a lot of other cool things we think we're going to add to the channel. We think will bring an interesting twist. So we're looking forward to it. So if you want to see all of that stuff, you got to make sure you're subscribing on the YouTube channel, like the page, subscribe, turn on your notifications, all that kind of stuff, because that stuff's all going to go there, and the podcast feed will just remain the main show, and that's it.
It's the best place to keep track of us and find out what we're doing, and hear things from the Tapped Out Collectibles side, too, also.
Be a whole lot of stuff, yeah, but, man, since this is the wrestling podcast version, let's dive right into it, Myron, and let's talk. We're going to structure it a little bit different this week.
My God.
We're first going to dive into the WWE stuff, man. That's kind of how we're going to roll through this week.
It was brutal, man.
Yeah, it's lots. I mean, look, Karrion Kross, man, he's an Impact player. We've been saying it for a while. I'm a big, massive fan of Kross.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. He's bad mofo. I mean, him and Scarlett together are such a dynamic team. You saw him there, just looking like he's about to pop that guy's head off.
Yeah, he was choking out Drew McIntyre on SmackDown like it was nobody's business. McIntyre,
and huge giant man.
Yeah, well,
so I mean, he's got to stalk McIntyre now. Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, dude, they've been going at it for a couple of weeks now. Lead into Clash at the Castle, and I think that's it. I think this is Kross's elevation to being a main event player. Now that the McIntyre thing is over, as far as with Roman. And listen, kudos to WWE, and I know there was debates both ways, right? Kudos to them. If the long-term thing was to make Roman special, not to chase the cheap pop for putting Drew over there, but elevated him to the main event level, only to have now so Kross can use him. Kross is elevated to the main event level, and I think there's something there down the road, in my opinion.
Drew is probably the most valuable person again this year for WWE. Is able to have storylines, able to put people over, able to look great. Yeah, he is another MVP, massive player in their plans right now. Love it.
Yeah, but speaking of Solo joining the Bloodline, the whole speaking of Roman, right?
Cool.
They grow stronger by the minute. Sami Zayn, on SmackDown, he's the honorary Uce. I think there's a storyline that's coming down the road, and it involves the person that we're going to talk about next. I think we eventually get to Kevin Owens potentially and Sami getting together. I think there's a turn. Eventually, look, the Bloodline, if it continues to grow, because we've heard talks of like, other members joining, I think Sami eventually like has to go out, right? Like he's going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, he's so awkward. I know that's the gimmick and it's funny, but when they kick him out, it's going to be a massive babyface turn for him, and you know it's coming. That's this typical wrestling booking, in my opinion. I think it's great. I'm enjoying Sami as an honorary Uce. I'm enjoying the programs. I'm watching more wrestling lately than I have been. I'm keeping track with everything if I can. So I'm in a good mood about wrestling right now, especially WWE.
Yeah, and so when he turns, I think the saves or when they turn on him, if Kevin Owens makes the save, that's your transition. Because again, guys, we're recording prior to Raw, so that's always the this week's Raw. So the more to come. So we're talking about last week's Raw when we say Kevin Owens. I wanted to ask you about Kevin Owens beating Austin Theory on TV. Look, but we see the return of Kevin Owens, like the prize fighter Kevin Owens, and I think that's a good thing. I think he's a Triple H guy in the sense of Triple H saw something in him, and he liked that presentation versus the one that was currently going on. So it was good for him, and I don't agree with a lot of people who think that it's burying Vince's chosen one. They're like, Theory's starting to get beat or whatever. Like, they're just going to bury him down, and I disagree completely.
No, somebody has to win these matches. Theory is going to be able to stay over because he's got that personality and that look. I don't think a loss for him is impactful, especially since he's a heel. I don't think heel losses are as impactful as they are to baby faces.
Well, I just think that Triple H sees. It's not that he doesn't see anything in Theory. I think that Triple H sees it in him, but he thinks he needs a little seasoning, and so he's like, let's buy him some time. Let's not shove him all the way to the top yet. Because here's the crazy thing. You could beat Theory and beat Theory. He's got the money in the bank. He could cash in at any point and win. Yeah. And it makes sense. Like he doesn't have to have win after win after win after win. So I think that is there. But like I said, I think it's good for Kevin Owens. I think they're reestablishing him, and in the immediate future, I think Kevin Owens is the bigger, star of him and Austin Theory. And that's not a knock on Theory, by the way.
And Kevin is so versatile. He can do. I never did like him until recently. But he can do comedy, he can do brawling, he can do technical wrestling. Awesome. Now, how far are we into this Triple H reign? What, a month, 2 months?
Let's call it a month. I know we're a little low, but if we call it a month, a good month of under him.
Did you expect it to be so good, Nick?
Yes,
I mean, I always thought it would be good, but I didn't expect it to be this good.
I didn't think it would. Here's the thing. I thought the product would be better, fast. I just am also amazed at some of the direction changes, like characters turned at the drop of a hat. Like that was a little surprising. I figured he would. Yeah. Well, it's just the ratings are what they are. I always tell people because now everybody wants to love that the ratings are great. Everything's great. Everything's great. AEW's great, which we'll address that in a minute. WWE's ratings are better, and I'm like, if I'm not depressed about 200,000 dropping, I'm not excited about 200,000 up. Now, I'm positive in the sense that here's why I will tell you this. Over the next couple weeks, that's where I want to see if Raw continues to climb versus Monday Night Football, then I'll be impressed.
That's tough. That's the toughest place. That's the toughest place for them is when they start running against Monday Night Football. And is this the first weekend of Monday Night Football?
Yeah. This is the first, as we record, folks, and it's miserable that we're recording in the middle of the day on Sunday, so football's on, and I'm missing some cool games. Yes. So and yesterday, this is it. This is the kind of stuff I want another show for, where I talk about how great was college football yesterday, and all of the things that happened. And we might record one. I might bring somebody on and record one, so we'll see.
That was cool.
But yeah, great day. But on the other hand, we just need to see, how does everything perform once football season, and they're up against legit other stuff. then I'll be excited or disappointed, because my thing is if Raw bounces down, and when I mean bounces down, like actually drops back down to like 1.8 or whatever against Monday Night Football, some people are going to be like, oh my God, they're down 200,000. I'm like, relax. Monday Night Football's back. Yeah. This is probably where they're going to be for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's great news for them, but I'm just saying it's probably expected.
Well, they've been doing this for how long now? They've ran against Monday Night Football for years, the entire run for Monday Night Raw. So they know what to expect, and they're going. It's not going to change things because they know what's happening. Now, people are going to say that kind of stuff, and it just people get so fickle about ratings for the WWE.
I just think it's wrestling. I don't know ratings. I'd say wrestling, but that's a whole other debate.
Yeah, and well, AEW is down a little bit. What do you think? Things are crazy right now. But that MJF promo was amazing.
Yeah, no, last week AEW was just a absolute dumpster fire for a couple days, and I talked about it a little bit. I did a daily mind dump on it, addressed it a little bit. The problem was there was so much information like changing, and it wasn't even daily. It was like 6 hours later something would come out. 6 hours, everybody had an opinion, everybody had a thought, blah 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 blah. And I kept saying,
dog.
Yeah, I was like, look, until I have all the information, it's kind of hard to say this, that, or the other. But it is what it is. But yes, so here's my take on AEW. On Dynamite this past week, things could have been way worse than they were.
Yeah.
But MJF's promo was absolute money. Moxley's coming out. The response, it was all very well done.
Yes.
So kudos. Definitely. Listen, because I have a lot of people who think I don't like AEW, and that is so far from the truth. But I was like, dude, look, that was a money promo, both the sides. Because listen, with all of the stuff, Myron, that happened, Punk, Steel, the Bucks, Omega, all being suspended, we'll get into the vacated titles in a minute. Like, it could have just went south, if they didn't handle it correctly.
Yeah. And the people that weren't executive vice presidents had the opportunity to stand up, step up, and take over for long enough to get save the stuff. Those guys in the time of greatest need for AEW stood up and are saving the story. They're saving the program by being the kind of stars they truly are. You don't need the Bucks and Kenny right now, and I think that is awesome. It shows how strong they are.
Well, I think you're talking about Mox, Jericho, and Danielson all stepping up in kind of leadership roles in the meeting, and then not coming out on TV. Look, that's all well and good, and I 100% agree that I think them stepping up, they have the potential to be the true leaders that lead it further down the road. Because here's the thing. I think they'll bounce back from this. I think they'll be fine. Everybody thought, just because I was, negative on how some things were handled, that I didn't think. I'm like, dude, they'll be fine. I think they have a core group of players. I want to talk about my football analogies. They have a core group of guys, I think, that are strong enough that they will be just fine. But I want to come back to and ask you, I know there were a lot of people that just weren't real happy with the vacating of the titles. And my argument to it was a little on the wild side, and I said from the sense of I didn't think they needed trios belts to begin with.
No,
I think those belts were
they got
solely
too many
created.
Belts. Way too many belts. And you, like you said, they were solely created for what?
To give them to the Bucks and Kenny. That's what I honestly thought.
I agree 100%.
And since they got suspended, and then they literally had to throw a Hodge. Listen, you want me to be negative? The trios title, where they put out the Death Triangle and the Best Friends, and I'm like, dude, whatever. Like, dude, you literally just hodgepodge the match together, like, because you can't tell me, I don't think anybody else deserved it other than than the Death Triangle. Like, so what do we even? Anyway. But I'll tell you, here's the thing I was most disappointed on about it. It's both a positive and a negative, by the way. I love the fact that they're doing a tournament for the heavyweight championship.
Yes.
Kind of makes sense, right? We're going to give these guys an opportunity to qualify. Now, if your ranking systems mattered, I would have probably went with, hey, these are the top 6, 8, whatever guys have done a tournament. But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The trios, you just randomly picked 2 teams and threw them out there. So you weren't even consistent within the concept of how you were crowning champions. That's the only negative I had from that sense. You just said, okay, you got 3 guys, you got 3 guys, go out there and have the match, and we'll put the belts on you because it makes the most sense.
I can't argue with any of that, Nick. I feel the same way. All this ratings are pointless in a sport like wrestling. If it was, it's all going to be arbitrary in the end. It all comes down to who's going to go over and who they pick to go over. That's also going to come down to who has 3 people,
right?
Who has 3 people that can get together and be ready to wrestle 3 days later after everybody gets suspended.
Yeah, I mean, that's my kind of my take on that. Now, like I said, though, I'm a fan of the tournament, of the heavyweight title, because listen, we got Bryan Danielson and Hangman Page on television, in the first round, and then of course Danielson picks up the win, so now he's going to go on and face Jericho, which that'll be cool to see that rematch coming up. You could tell the stories. Like I think that's ultimately what I did. Here's the positives. I know I've knocked on the trio thing. But the positive of the tournament is that you're getting to weave in some stories and build some stories that you're trying to go with. Because guess what? The roller coaster went off their tracks, man. Like with Punk gone and the Bucks gone, Kenny, all that. Like everything went up. So it's like, okay, we got to start from scratch. The tournament gives you the opportunity to, like, we're going to have these matches for the tournament, but we can build a story out of it. So that's what I like about tournaments.
It gives you something to cover up the hole. Where everybody's coming down there to see, will the Bucks and them come back? You've got another storyline running now with the tournament that you can use to fill in the space that whole controversy has caused.
All right. But so anyway, I mean, look, AEW will be fine, and I try to tell everybody that they'll be fine. They've got a good core group of guys. Like we know some of the guys backstage, and they're good guys, and they're all capable guys. And then there's, like you said, the Moxleys, Danielsons, Jerichos of the world who will help lead them on, and so I think they'll be fine. But that's it. But let's keep it moving up. But before we do that, I was super excited. We talked a while back about our friends over at Slowpoke. They reached out to us, and we got partnered with them again. So one quick second before we move on to MLW, Impact, and Ring of Honor and all that good stuff, check out a word from our friends over at Slowpoke. Hey guys, Nick here at the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, and I'm here to remind you about our friends over at SlowpokeToys.com. We told you about them a while back when they made their huge debut up there in Nashville at StarCast, and we told you then it was just the beginning. Boy, we weren't kidding. Since then, they've gone on to add some new items, and you missed them. Did you miss them? Well, why? All you got to do is make sure you're giving them a follow over on all their social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter or more, at Slowpoke Toys. Or, man, just go straight to the source. Go right to the website, slowpoketoys.com, and don't miss out on all the cool indie wrestling collectibles, pins, stickers, magnets, and more. They've even got some more cool stuff coming for Christmas. That's why you want to make sure you're giving them a follow on all their social media platforms. Again, at Slowpoke Toys on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. How involved are they? Man, they've already been working with promotions like AEW Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Revolver, ACW Wisconsin, Black Pro Wrestling, and more. That's right, man. They're making a big dive into the indie wrestling market. And if you're an indie wrestling fan, or you got that special somebody who's an indie wrestling fan, make sure you're giving them a follow at Slowpoke Toys on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And again, check them out right on that website at slowpoketoys.com. That's right, man. Check our buddies out over at slowpoketoys.com. And, of course, follow them on social media at Slowpoke Toys, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Like I said, they've got some announcements. They're just constantly coming out with new products. And the only way you're going to keep up with that kind of stuff is checking them out either on the website, of course, but give them a follow on social media. And, of course, then you don't ever miss it because they'll let you know when they're coming out. But speaking of stuff, man, let's jump right into Ring of Honor. Now, here's the crazy thing. I was joking with you before we recorded, right? And I said, we're going to talk a little Ring of Honor about some shit that happened on Dynamite. Okay, so it's tough to say Ring of Honor, Impact, MLW, blend it all together when essentially it all happens on, but we will. That's kind of how it'll work. As you probably saw from the picture there, if you're watching on YouTube, but if you're listening on the podcast, you probably missed it. There was a picture of Daniel Garcia. He won the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. Question was it for the local pop in town? Yes, and here's why. Again, we're going to go back to something we referenced in the AEW segment when we talked about shit could have went sideways, this last week.
Yeah.
Give the fans something to pop for in a hometown area, hometown boy. Put the strap on him. Kind of made sense in the long run. So.
Yes. Good choices. I mean, that show was booked very well. They did a good job with that. They came back and really did a good job. And I hear Tony Schiavone is working more backstage for them now because of all the stuff that happened, all the suspensions. I think that's good for the company. I really do.
Yeah.
All his experience. Yeah.
I still think Rampage should be Ring of Honor. Because of what we just said.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's Ring of Honor stuff happening consistently on, and I know Rampage's ratings ticked up for whatever the fuck that means. I mean, it went up. Who knows?
Well, I heard people saying good stuff about it. I did not catch it myself.
Well, listen,
we were at Southern Honor.
Yeah, my problem is I've said it once, I've said it a million times, so I hate repeating myself on the podcast. But until Rampage is live on the regular basis, guess what? Do you know why this past one the week before was good? It was live in, it was live in Chicago, But if it's not live and it's taped, it's always going to have a ding to it. That's the whole wrestling is a live product. Fucking internet, exactly. Had back in the day, you could think about it. They used to tape like a month's worth of shows.
It came on TV.
Like, I mean, the people that went to the tapings knew, but they didn't even know when it was going to happen.
They didn't know when it was going to happen and how long it took at the time to get a publication out onto newsstands for you to read it.
Well, you didn't. It was it aired. That's the problem. It was aired by the time it could get out of magazine.
Exactly. So yeah, it was great for that, but not today.
Right, exactly.
The internet covers everything, and people have podcasts like this where we talk about it.
Exactly. The big news for this weekend, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the show, MLW essentially is coming to Atlanta this weekend. So lots of stuff, and we'll go, dive into, like, we're going to do a special segment towards the end of the show that'll cover that a little bit.
Yes.
So you definitely want to check that out. Somebody asked me about some Impact. I'm like, dude, are you not watching? You need to be subscribing to the channel. We have a guy, Lewis, up at Shooting Up North on the Alliance Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. Yeah. He's been doing an Impact review that we've been sharing it pretty much weekly when he does it.
Yeah. So
if you're an Impact fan, look, dude, we're going to go in depth with, Lewis will go in depth with you on Impact. So that's why we don't dive into it as deep. When something big happens, we'll talk about it and cover it.
I love it, and I watch it.
Yeah.
But we don't really cover it as much because we already have somebody doing that for us.
Exactly. So make sure you're subscribing, liking, all that, turn your notifications over on the YouTube page, and you won't miss that. When Lewis does one, I do my best to put it up, that's for sure. But then, so like that's a lot of the national stuff. We talked about a lot of that stuff. But hey, Jesus, Myron, your schedule freed up enough. You got to make the trek.
Then I got to go to a show Friday night.
Yeah,
work's been so crazy. But I finally got to go to show. I got to go to Southern Honor, look at that card, and it was every bit, if not better, than that card looks. Great show. Phenomenal show. So break it down. Next, what did we see?
Listen, so the anniversary show is next month, October 7th. Still Here For. They go Still Here is their anniversary show name. Everything was low into that, and this kind of basically was the final chess pieces being moved into place. We thought, we kind of knew where things were heading, but this show was the definitive answer of like, no, this is where we are. Well, the first thing I want to address is not the main event stuff as far as like where we're heading in War Chamber at Still Here For, but they had a winner take all. Happy Madness is your Southern Fried Tag Champions. We'll come back to that in a minute. And All-Star Special is your Southern Honor Champions, and it was a winner take all.
Yeah.
And first of all, hands down, one of the most entertaining. I completely compared it to a New Jack match in the sense that the music just kept playing the entire match. And those two teams brawled all over. But All-Star Special came up on the short end of the stick. And post-match, there was a phone call that came through. And Brooklyn Creed fired, as she is the general manager, booker, whatever, of Southern Dishonor, as she calls it, and fired the All-Star Special.
Wasn't able to be at the show because of some health concerns. Brooklyn, we wish you a speedy recovery, even though you're evil. And you fired one of my favorite tag teams, All-Star Special. But get well soon.
Do you think it's really the last time we see them there?
No, they're too damn popular.
Here's the thing, though. As long as Contra, Brooklyn Creed, Cruel, Joe Black, as long as they're in charge, they won't be back. And that's the heartbreaking part is I think, look, you're going to have to travel to some other parts of the state to see these guys work. And we'll kind of keep you in the loop on that as well, where you can see those guys. Because like you said, they are pretty much, I mean, they're are they our and when I say they're our favorite tag team, right? It's kind of one of those, like, are they the most lovable team?
They're over everywhere. Totally over everywhere. No matter where they go, people love them. I wouldn't say they're huggable, but they're very well loved, and people like to see them. So,
I mean, have you ever hugged Huckabee? I mean, come on, he's a great.
I don't know if I've
bear.
hugged Huckabee. I've hugged Hanson, I think.
Yeah. But like I said, all of what we really were leading to. Oh, by the way, before we get to the main event, so again, I keep sidebarring because it was such a great card.
Yes.
So Kyle Matthews made a save when Chip Day was trying to just keep beating up and working on Adam Jacobs. And then Kyle had an opportunity to wrestle AC Mack for the IWTV World Championship, which, how cool was that opportunity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mack looked great. It's good to see him back. I haven't seen him in months.
Mack looks phenomenal. Kyle is Kyle. The match was going super, and then, of course, Chip Day, gets involved. Chip's got a chip on his shoulder. Go figure. And he's wanting to prove Kyle had something on his shoulder.
Kyle had a chip on his chest in a chair.
Yeah. So I think they've announced now that it'll be Chip and Kyle next month at Still Here 4.
Yeah, that's going to be a good
Clear your calendar. Make sure you're there.
It's going to be a clinic.
Yeah.
It is going
here's
to
the
be
thing.
a clinic.
We ironically, best technicians, the two of the best technicians in the state of Georgia. I agree with that statement. The problem is Kyle Matthews going to want revenge so much. I don't know that we get technician Kyle, but we get brawler Kyle, who basically just wants to whip the shit, kick the shit out of Chip Day. So
it's a possibility.
As much as we want the technical match that we could get, we may not get it. We may just get a good old fashioned fight. So, but there's 100% chance that's what we're going to get in the other matches we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Because Joe Black and Cruel had a match versus Tank and Gunnar Miller. And look, I saw that on paper and just thought, total chaos. There's no way this ends well. And it did not. Brawl breaks out. Everybody ends it. Yeah, total chaos. I mean, at one point, it was just literally bodies everywhere. Shit's bad when Gary Lamb comes to the ring to try to be the voice of reason at one point, right? Okay, he didn't come to be the voice of reason. That was sarcasm, by the way.
Got a promo.
He came down and
set up.
And the crazy thing also, by the way, prior, at the very beginning of the show, Murder One essentially comes out and offers his services. So him and Gary Lamb make a partnership for a temporary truce or whatever you want to call it, to essentially try to stop Contra. And then as shit all falls apart at the end of the show, we essentially get the, hey, War Chamber's coming at the anniversary show. The members of Contra, are going to end, but it's we realize at some point we're short a member. Yeah. Like the Southern Honor base is short a member. And how crazy was the reaction they got when the video showed that the surprise, returning member was going to be the savior, David Ali.
It was electric. When you bring that up, the way the video was done and how it hit, where they saw the bat, then they came up to him. Oh, it was perfect. It was perfect. When we finish recording, I'm putting in for vacation for that day so I can be there. The War Chamber, that's going to be insane. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's going to be insane.
I have some predictions we will share as we get close to War Chamber. There's people in this match I don't trust.
You don't trust Murder One. I know that. I don't trust Murder One.
Listen, I didn't say it was Murder One. So we'll leave that. That's a cliffhanger. No, we'll leave that as a cliffhanger for down the road. Oh. By the way, I also want to throw in here, David Ali's not the only one returning. Cyrus the Destroyer is returning home.
I can't wait to see Cyrus again. His stories about going to Japan are so interesting. And on top of that, he's been over there kicking ass for a while now.
Yes.
God, that guy's killing it.
Yeah, one hell of a tour. When he comes back, I may have to sit down with him and do a show where we talk about, just let him tell everything that went on in Japan. Yeah. We aired an interview on our channel a while back that Lewis did with him. Small world. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But Lewis did one with him, and he kind of was going on. And but look at his story out there again. Good dude, Cyrus, great dude. But yes, he's going to return, and he is seeking revenge for basically being spiked, and basically before he left by Judas, and that'll be some big man shit. That's big man shit. That's what that is.
Yeah.
So definitely. Still here for War Chamber, October the 7th. You won't want to miss it. Myron's putting his vacation in. Go ahead and put in yours as well.
Yeah. I got to see Ox, too. I hadn't seen Ox in a while because the way things have been going. Man, that's always the most interesting conversation you'll ever have.
Oh, yeah. Great. Ox is a great dude. Absolutely. He is. But, man, we're going to jump in and talk about some other stuff that went down this weekend and what we got down the road. But before we do that, we always like to let you know it's on the screen, man. It's right there in front of you, but that's not enough. We got to have a word from our friends over Athletic Greens. Yeah. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I wanted more energy, and I wanted to see what was all the hype about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, even aging. I personally use it because when I started this keto fasting diet I'm on, I was worried about the energy I was going to have. Not now. It supports better sleep quality, recovery, mental clarity, even alertness. By the way, it's cheaper than getting all the different supplements that's in this thing. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews and even recommended by professional athletes. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient and daily nutrition. It's one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements that you're looking to look out for your health. So to make it easy for you, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit their website at athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. That's right, man. Check them out. Athletic Greens /emerging. Go ahead, man.
I'm going to tell something on you, Nick. Nick's done so well on Athletic Greens. You just saw the ad for our Pro Wrestling Tees store cook across. He's having to get all new tapped out merchandise. He's lost so much weight. Where do you get Tapped Out merchandise?
ProWrestlingTees.com. Check us out, man. Do a search in that window, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I think we've got 5 or 6 up there now, different models that you can buy. But you are right. It was funny. Somebody today said, like, the shirt that I have on, it's the Pro Wrestling Tees shirt. And, yeah, it was wild, dude. This thing's just way too big. And I took the ultimate compliment this week when friend of the show, Todd Sexton, walked by and was like, "You're losing a little weight. You're looking a little thinner in the face." I was like, "Yeah, actually, I am." Anyways, but speaking of this past weekend, man, we were talking a little bit about Southern Honor. They weren't the only show to run.
No.
Our friends down at IWE, they ran on Saturday. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go, and I haven't heard a ton from it this week. But look, man, I mean, the main Cruel versus Joe Black. House of Cards, that was the big show this weekend. Like, how wild! Like, they have done some really cool stuff. Like, I love to give them their props. They've done really well this year. They've had a solid year. They've got a lot of great stuff going on. They're bringing in guys like Cruel, Joe Black, the All-Star Special, Exotic Youth, Skrilla, Owen Knight. They got a women's division that's strong. Why am I drawing a blank on Lindsay Snow? Jeez, my brain's like. COVID, had me and got me, right? But yeah, so they've been doing some great stuff. So if you're down in the Augusta area, like, here's the thing, the state used to be like, if you weren't in the north area, like northeast kind of area, there wasn't a whole lot for you. Then, change, Canton came into play, Jasper came into play. And then of course, the South was but then Thompson with the Viral, and IW. So, like, dude, the state filled in really nice to where you could get some good wrestling everywhere.
Yes.
And I'm happy that IWE, one of the better promotions in the state, that's down there. Just cool. I honestly just wish, my wish was that they would have video, like full video, not like a clip here or there. I'm like full video that I could get a hold of, and we could air some of that stuff because I hear really good stuff about it. And that's kind of what I'd love to do is get some of their matches on here with some commentary, something, that we could air, do some watch-alongs.
Definitely.
But anyway, we talked about it a little bit. We've addressed it a couple times, but of course, coming up next weekend, this is one of the shows we're going to talk about. Southern Frieds has essentially one of their, their biggest shows of the year. What would you call it? Their second best show?
It's their Rumble.
Best, biggest, easy for me.
It's their Rumble. Crossroads is always awesome. It's always, every time we've been, it's been a phenomenal show. They pull all the stops out. It's going to have some great matches. I can't like emphasize enough how important this show is to wrestling in Georgia. It's one of the big ones you have to get out to see.
Like, Shindig's the show. Like, that's their mania.
Yes.
And so I would say, so Crossroads is probably their Rumble. You know what? Some people would argue SummerSlam, but tomato, right?
Yeah. I just love the Rumble so much.
Oh, no. Rumble's my second favorite pay-per-view of the year. But as far as, like, do they consider it hell, who knows? But anyway, what we could sit here and argue all day but Crossroads
wrestling is a sport on opinion, Nick.
Yeah, exactly. God forbid.
On opinion, because you can't have real odds, you can't have real scores and all that kind of stuff like normal sports. Wrestling is largely based on opinion and what you enjoy. So enjoy it. Right. That's the whole thing.
So let's talk a little bit. Billy Buck will defend. Look, Jagged Edge has pushed CT Keys to the point he is getting his title shot. He's going to have an opportunity.
Been beautiful.
Let me ask you: is this? I mean, I know Buck has faced some tough opponents. Nick Halen pushed him to the limit. Blah blah blah. Is CT Keys going to be the toughest challenge he's had up to this title reign?
CT Keys could be in the top at any promotion in the Southeast. I know that guy is got the body. He works very well. He could be over any place.
Well, since Jagged took him under his wing, I think that was the switch. He was always a gifted athlete. He was always phenomenal. Jagged gave him that little something extra to take him right over the top, and that's why
turning into the
look. I love Billy Buck. He knows it. The pro, but my point is, CT Keys could be the guy, with Jagged. Like I said, is that extra little something? Because what's the old joke, Byron? The difference between extraordinary and ordinary is that little bit extra.
Yeah.
Jagged could be that little bit of extra
Yes.
for CT
Yes.
Keys.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Madness, who we addressed earlier, who won the winner take all, but now here in Southern Fried, by the way, they are loved here. So that's a little bit of a twist. They will be defending the Southern Fried tag team titles against the approved Nick Kalen and Bobby Moore. Now, I know Happy Madness has had some challenges as well. This clearly goes to show you this is like one of the big shows, right?
Yeah.
Because this could probably potentially be their toughest opponents.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what we think of Nick Kalen and how great of a wrestler he is.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Moore is a consummate tag team guy and has been. Now he's not. I'm not saying I'm taking anything away from him individually, but anytime you've had him with Hawkins or him and him tag team, like he's got his shit together. So this team is the one that I think could potentially dethrone Happy Madness and Southern Fried as well.
If anyone can, it's them. Because the other big time tag team,
they fucking imploded,
broke up, and they're having a match on that card.
Yeah.
Luka Daniels and Hunter James. Oh wow! You talk about some hatred when Hunter turned on Luka.
But dude, how long did we tell people? We were on this show going like, why? Why did you people love him? Hunter James could have one of the most punchable faces in wrestling, right? I mean, he's the guy's a little prick, and everybody loved him for whatever reason. I don't know why. He's just so cocky, and he's such a little, like I said, you just wanted to hate the kid, and everybody's like, they loved him, and I'm like, I guess, whatever. But then, he hung around he's hanging around with those guys in Cornelia and then down at PCW and down in, Wrestle America. And I was like, dude, he's showing his true colors everywhere, and you guys aren't, And Luka, unfortunately, hook, line, and sinker, he fell for it. But now I think Luka's got an opportunity to get his revenge, finally, because that guy's been running from him. Speaking of revenge, Judas versus Xavier Reyes. Talk about big. Here's if you look, this is, and I say this with 100% all due respect to Xavier Reyes. If you had told me this 2 years ago, this match, it is nothing where it is right now. Xavier Reyes has proven across the state now that he's a player and he's somebody, he's a force to be reckoned with. So now Judas has a challenge.
Judas is a brutal man, though.
Yeah.
He spiked Cyrus. He's evil.
But they love him there. They love him there. So you got to remember that.
Well, you in the right turn, you can be. Georgia is like you can be loved here, hated there. It's like politics in the state of Georgia. It depends on what your voting base is at the local shows.
Correct. Exactly. It's just all about knowing your local base and, do you appeal or are you against it? Carly Bravo is facing Jacob Ashworth. That feud's been building. Carly Bravo, listen, Jacob Ashworth probably arguably is the most loved guy at Southern Fried. Yeah. Carly Bravo, however, love him or hate him, is a special talent.
Athlete.
He's an athlete, but dude, it's not even that. It's just the pure charisma of that dude. Again, whether you love him or hate him, he's got so much charisma. I think I've said there's guys every now and then you see he's going to be on a national television show somewhere soon. And listen, I get it. By the way, I know everybody's going to go, well, he worked dark. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about a contracted talent, Carly Bravo. That's what I meant by that. But that's on Saturday. Then Sunday's going to be an active day. Yeah, we ran the commercial at the beginning of the show. Championship District Wrestling at District Atlanta Bar downtown. Look, I've said it when we went to their show last month. The environment's off the chain. Yeah. Look, the card, if you want to, go back and watch the YouTube channel. The card, they will run around through that card again for you. But, dude, it's the environment, the talent. I think if you're, especially if you're in that area. Well, dude, we drove, 45 minutes to get to there? Yeah. And, dude, completely enjoyed the environment. So, absolutely get your tickets. Championship District Wrestling. go to their Facebook page. They've got tickets on sale. Click, go there. I think you're going to see some of the best. Like, there's some amazing young talent on there. These guys that are developing it, they're going to be big time names down the road. But you're going to see other guys, Anthony Ogogo, Ernest the Cat Miller, who, by the way, entertains the shit out of you no matter every time you see him. Yes. The opportunity, though, the challenge, though, is not too far up the road. And I think it's like also there's another one that's kind of the same type of issue there's booking. But MLW, the Super Series, is going to be running at
MLA.
Espacio Discotheque, whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
Basically, Mucha Lucha's house is what we'll call it. I know it's not that, but that's essentially the name.
Yeah.
But dude, they're going to bring in Hammerstone, Savio Vega, Taya Valkyrie, Mads Kruger will be there, Fatu, Davey Richards, Willie Mack, Mance Warner, Sexy Star, on and on and on. Like I said, lots of. Here's the crazy thing: it's not just MLW talents.
Yeah.
It's also
it's MLA talent.
It's Mucha Lucha talent. Like, you're going to see. I'm sure Loco will be there. I know he's something else there, but Blanco Loco will be there. I'd be stunned if Ray Fury's not there, but
I got a feeling that this show will set the attendance record for the year for indie wrestling in Georgia.
Does it count, though, because MLW's there if they break it? Here's the thing.
I don't know, man.
My personal take, tip the cap to Ricardo, typically, and this is not a shot, by the way, at MLW. I'm just saying there, most of the time, Mucha Lucha's drawing houses better than MLW does.
Yeah.
So that, again,
if you've never been to a show,
yeah,
it's insane. The food, the beers,
tequila,
the bouncy houses.
The bouncy house, yeah.
Tequila. Yeah, it's and the crowd is so great. They love that stuff. It's an experience you have to see. It definitely is a Mucha Lucha show. We're blessed on the 18th to have two massive, highly star-studded cards running. It makes me feel good about Georgia wrestling.
I honestly, the crazy thing, I was trying to look and cheat. I saw somebody else put up there's some other stuff. But look, you know my take, dude. We're recording early this week. We're recording on Sunday afternoon. So I always tell you, if you're just, especially locally, check out the Rob Rod Report. Give him a follow over on Facebook, YouTube, the Rob Rod Report, ROBROD Report, the Rob Rod Report. He's going to tell you where all the shows are locally. Makes it simple and easy, and you can kind of plot your system, how you're going to go and go to bet around. Because look, we tell you to do it for Rob Rod. I think we would be remiss if we didn't say do it for us. Go over to our YouTube channel if you're not already watching there. Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Just do a search there. Subscribe, like, turn on your notifications, all that good stuff. Become a member. Like I just mentioned to you that we recorded this thing on Sunday. This show's going up as soon as we're done. That's just kind of how I do it. As soon as we're done, I upload the stuff too. So the people who are members over on our YouTube channel, they're gonna get it early. I mean, like a couple days early. But look, we get it. Some people, they're still they're podcast listeners, Apple Podcast, iHeartMedia, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere and everywhere there's a podcast platform, we're there. If you if that's your choice, if that's how you listen to us, subscribe, 5-star rating, review if you're so inclined. We greatly appreciate it. But we just appreciate it if you're listening, watching anywhere and everywhere. We're cool with that. Just keep doing it. That's what we always say.
Yes. We love you and we need you.
Yeah.
So keep it up.
Yeah, we appreciate all the support we've gotten over the years. And, like I said, we're hoping we're going to mix it up. And because we are going to mix it up, we always suggest your feedback. Like if we talked about something other than just wrestling, what would you want it to be? I mean, obviously we're going to talk some football, college and pro, fantasy football, some here. Obviously I'm a comic book collector. We're going to talk some comic books, Marvel movies. Listen, dude, I just binge watched the shit out of Cobra Kai yesterday. I watched the entire season in a day. So look, we may do something. We may talk about that. Derwin, I got the email. I responded to it. Yeah, we'll probably do a whole episode on Cobra Kai. You might have to do homework and binge watch all of Cobra Kai. 10 episodes.
I've not seen a single episode. But when I do this, when we're done, I'm probably going to binge watch the She-Hulk.
Very good.
I love anything comic book oriented. Anything like that.
I know. I think She-Hulk gets a terrible bad rap. For people like trying to talk about how bad it is, it ain't bad, folks. I enjoy it a lot. Now, am I a comic book super fan? Yeah, I'm a New Japan fan of Marvel movies and stuff. I don't know that you can go small enough for me not to enjoy it. Let's put it to you that way. I'm one of the guys, by the way, and it's not just Marvel stuff, by the way. It's comic book stuff. I also binge watch Sandman on Netflix. And most people are like, I don't even know exactly. It's a comic book, so I had to watch it. Anyway, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Let us know some suggestions, ideas. We could do top 10 shows of them. We can do preview shows. We could do whatever. We just want to mix it up a little bit and do some other things other than just wrestling. I know we're a wrestling podcast, but like we said last week, God forbid we enjoy some things outside of pro wrestling. You never know. Down the road, friend of the show, I've talked to him before. I don't know anything about UFC MMA, but I know some people who do. Maybe it's time we talk a little MMA, UFC when the big fights are coming. Stuff like that. Let us know, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you what you think, and maybe that's some stuff that we can get into. Well, that's all I have today, Myron. You got anything else before we get out of here?
This is something eating at me. I didn't believe I didn't tell you off the air. That video you sent me about the top 10 comic books that were $20 now to invest in. I had the first 3. Punisher 1. I had the whole Rocket Raccoon series. I had the whole Long Shot series when I sold my collection.
But that's spoiler alert. That's kind of the stuff that we'll probably get into. Some of that, like books.
Wow, I was so pissed off.
Yeah, books that I think you should invest in. Because here's the thing: everybody says like, "Oh, you should invest." Little also like they made the announcements like at the D23 that they were like, "Oh, well, Werewolf by Night's coming," so now everybody's like, "Oh my God, got to go run out and buy the first." Okay, look. By the way, just if you are prepared to pay a lot of money, they're expensive. But my point is like, look at books that are not super expensive. That you can get into and invest in long term, that aren't expensive if you're trying to do that kind of thing. I always think that's fun to do because, look, even as I look over my shoulder right now, there's a couple books that I see that I'm like, oh, you should buy one of those. Well, yeah, but, it's an expensive hobby. It's like being a wrestling fan and decide you're going to go to, like, Mania, SummerSlam, All Out, like every big event, like you're going to do that. That's kind of what it feels like at times. But yeah, so again, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Give us shoot your ideas of some regular stuff you'd like us to cover, just for fun. That's all, just for fun. Anything else, man?
That's all I got. I think it was fun doing the show. It's every time we do this, it's like, we got to do the show, and it always winds up being fun when we're finished with it. So
absolutely, I agree. Well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.